Okay, so we're beginning a new topic in our Biyam Darkecha Chabura, which thank God has been going on now for a few years in various formats. We're shifting now from the Biyam Darkecha book on Avoda Lamaisa and shifting over to a standalone sefer on Devekus, Darkei Avoda Lamaisa Devekus, which is a standalone softcover pamphlet, and we have the PDF posted in the WhatsApp group for anybody who needs it. And so we're just going to begin from the very beginning. We'll dive right in with the introduction. So the introduction, he says as follows: Devekus, attachment to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, connection, cleaving to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Hamida shalev kol Yehudi mishtokik alev. This is the midah that the heart of every Jew yearns for. This experience of Dvekus, shehi even hapina. This is the cornerstone l'chol havoda. This is the foundation. This is the cornerstone that holds together all avoda. This is the thing that all avoda is built on. The goal of all avoda is dvekus, very, very simply. V'hi hayisod l'chaim amitiyim, and it is the foundation for true life. Ki dvekus hi iker pinimius umachus v'nishmas hayahados. Dvekus, the experience of connection and attachment to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, this is the essential core internal essence, the soul of Judaism. It's a big statement. It's the soul of Judaism. This is what Judaism is really all about. Anything outside of Dvekus is just the external trappings, the things that can help us get to Dvekus, the things that we use to experience Dvekus, ways of understanding what Dvekus might be, how we know we have it when we have it, how we might get to it, how to avoid losing it, etc. But that's all the externalities, and that's all the means of getting to this goal. Shenichya, what is it? Shenichya im shaychus l'Hashem Yisbarach. Dvekus means that a person lives with connection, attachment and connection to Hashem Yisbarach. Sheniya mechubarim imo v'kesher pnimi amok. And that a person and that we will be attached, tied up, bound up with him, with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, b'kesher pnimi amok, not in an external way, but in a much deeper internal way. Not in an external sense, but in an internal sense, which is obviously much deeper, spiritual sense rather than a physical sense. There are ways of experiencing Dvekus that are surface level and external and chitzonius. I would even go so far as to say that on one level, the Gemara in Sota says that how can a person be mistavek with Hashem, right? Hashem is an all-consuming, all-annihilating fire, so to speak, right? How can a human being be mistavek with HaKadosh Baruch Hu? The Gemara in Sota says that you can't be mistavek with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. You can be mistavek to him through his midos, right? So act the way God acts, so to speak. That's Dvekus. That can be misunderstood, that Dvekus is impossible. And Dvekus simply and merely means parroting or monkeying God's actions. We have a sense of how God interacts with the world, and we characterize God's pa'ulos, God's actions, and God's midos, God's what appear to be God's character traits. Mahu rachum, afata rachum, mahu chanun, afata chanun, etc., etc. He's gomle chesed, you're gomle chesed, and so on and so forth. Taken the wrong way, that is not kesher pnimi amok. That's not a chibur b'kesher pnimi. That's not a connection. That's not an attachment. That's not that's not being bound up with HaKadosh Baruch Hu internally. That's being bound up with HaKadosh Baruch Hu on an external level, on a behavioral level. But actions can be merely external. They can be mitzvahs anashim milumada. They can exist without any kind of deep meaning, feeling, deep relatability to a person's own inner drives and inner experience. I mean, that's not the Devekas we're talking about here. We're talking about something internal. It's an internal experience of being attached to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, not an acting as if I'm attached to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. There's benefit in that too. All right, one of the core principles of the Arizal is often, in many places, is the idea that by acting as if you have something that you don't have yet, by trying to reach beyond where you currently are, you create a sense of lack and you create the kalim to actually be able to get there. Menachem talks about this as well. There's something to that. But nevertheless, that's just an intermediary step to actually being kona and actually acquiring and actually taking in as an or panimi that's acquired internally, the experience that you're pretending you're having. And so here, really, the goal at the end of the day is to achieve that internal sense, that internal experience of Devekus. And now he makes it very clear that that's what it is. It's internal. V'nargish as Hashem Yisbarach Yitanu. It's the idea of Devekus is to feel. Is that we should feel HaKadosh Baruch Hu with us b'chol davar, in everything. Like the Rambam says at the end of Moreh Nevuchim, that the goal of all avoda, the goal of all contemplation of Hashem, is to experience connectivity and consciousness and alignment with God within one's mind and one's consciousness, while doing everything, while going through all the ordinary ups and downs and activities of life, eating, drinking, work, and so on and so forth. That's the goal. And here he's saying it's to feel it, right? Feeling internally, not to act it out, not to do something, but to feel it. V'nirtze also be'es kirvaso, to want him, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and to want closeness with him. V'nizke lahargish, and to feel, again, feeling, to be able to feel, to want to feel, to actually experience the feeling of banim atem l'Hashem Elokechem. To feel what it feels like, to actually sense that you are a ben to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. What does that feel like? What does it feel like to actually experience being a ben in relation to an av, where HaKadosh Baruch Hu is the av and you are the ben? What is that like? What does it feel like to be a ben to an av for an actual parent and child? Can that feeling, that sense of belonging and attachment and connectivity be replicated in connection to HaKadosh Baruch Hu? That's the Devekus we're talking about here. V'chol kach harbe Yehudim shelibam ar. And so many Jews whose hearts are awake, who care about this, right? They're not just going through the motions like so many people are. They're not just caught up with doing things for the sake of appearances and because other people told me to do it and it keeps other people happy and it satisfies expectations. But they're actually awake. They ask, "Eich zoch l'seh?" They want to achieve such an experience, and so they want to know how. Gam harbe Yehudim shechin zochim lahargish ma'at dvekus. And then there are many people who have actually been lucky enough to feel this a little bit, to experience a little bit of dvekus. They rotzim lahagdir ulahagdilas esha dvekus. They want to have more of it. They want to expand it. They want to have that experience again. They want to have it deeper. They want to have it more. They want to have it in more places within their life. That's a natural consequence. This is a consequence of the call we find in the Arizal as well, that every time there's an experience of or, an experience of godless hamochin, an experience of a spiritual consciousness, awareness, enlightenment, that experience, which isn't going to stay there forever because all of life is defined by ruts of Veshov, mati velo mati, coming forward and moving back again, Yomam V'Laila, Roshem, everything leaves a Roshem. Every or that comes in, which is eventually going to go away, it leaves an impression because you know what that thing is. If you experience Dvekus and then the Dvekus goes away, because you're not experiencing full Dvekus all the time, you experience little flashes of Dvekus. So the Dvekus goes away, and in the place of that Dvekus is a Roshem, an impression, a hole, but an empty hole that is empty precisely because you know what it was filled with once upon a time. And that sense, that awareness of what it was when it was there, that creates powerful yearning, powerful hishtokukus, a powerful desire to get it back again and to expand it even further because you know what the experience of having it in one place in your life. If I have it on Ne'ilah on Yom Kippur and I know what it's like, and then after Ne'ilah is over, it's gone and I want it back. But not only do I want it back, but I want to expand it into other parts of my life so I can have it on a random Tuesday morning. And so these people ask, people who have experienced a little bit of Devakas, they want to know how they can experience, how they can achieve Shavisi Hashem Negdi Summit. If I've had Devakas, I've experienced Devakas once upon a time here or there, but then you wanted to tumid. Shavisi Hashem Negdi Summit, I wanted to put that experience of encountering the presence of HaKadosh Baruch Hu all the time, in front of me all the time. That's Devakas, constantly in all things. So this is why we've come and written this kuntras. Maybe we'll be able to open the door a little bit to the life, the experience of Dvekas. And we'll be able to walk a little bit after our fathers and our teachers should who in the past have experienced Dvekas with their full hearts. Like David HaMelech writes, Davka nafshi acharecha, my heart was davuk, was attached after you. Uva emes, Devekas hi davar hanitzvach biyoser livnei aliyah. It's not only that we want it, but the truth is that it's necessary. Devekas hi hadavar hanitzvach biyoser livnei aliyah. Devekas, attachment, connectivity to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that experience, is critical and necessary for anybody who's trying to grow. Ohave Hashem be'emes, people who truly love HaKadosh Baruch Hu, asher gam b'choshech shel hador hazeh, which even in the darkness of this generation, which is a time when things are confusing and dark and not clear, and experiences of HaKadosh Baruch Hu and awareness of HaKadosh Baruch Hu's presence is fleeting and far between often. Hey mavakshim Avaya b'chol u'lvav, they desire HaKadosh Baruch Hu with all of their hearts. B'yetzer tov v'yetzer hara v'shnei yitzirachol mechavshin es haderach l'hagia el Hashem Yisbarach, and they're seeking out the way to get there, to come to that. V'nishmosehem kol ach u'rotzos l'hatzliach u'hiskadesh u'lisromen. These are people who, because of the times in which they live, which are confused and hard and difficult and beset by all kinds of challenges and issues, precisely therefore they want to be successful, they want to grow, they want to be more spiritually elevated. The Lama B'Nisyonos, they want to be able to stand up to all of the challenges that they face and all the difficulties and hardships that they face in their lives. The Liskos L'chai Emes Yehudim, they want to live a true Jewish life, a truly Jewish life. La'asos nachas ruach la'avinu shabbat. They want to do right by their Father in heaven, so to speak, l'smach b'avodaso, and to enjoy, to find the joy in their avodah. Right? We don't want to go through the motions anymore. People for a very long time just were satisfied going through the motions, and joy was a first world problem, and no one had time for that. To enjoy my avodah, I have to do my avodah because I have to do my avodah. I have to keep the mitzvos and observe halacha because I have to do so. And there's no real alternative, and being happy about it or finding joy in it is not really high on the priority list, because finding joy and happiness in life is not part of the priority list in general. But that's not the case anymore. We thankfully live in a time where that's actually become a priority. Our self-awareness of our need for such things has expanded. The world has begun to function in such a way that it creates space for us to pay attention to such things and need such things. Amna, however, however, Many times it seems to people that this is impossible. It's practically impossible. Ki hachoshech mechasa eretz. Darkness covers the land. Anu chalushe koach. We don't have a lot of strength and ability. V'omdim mo riboy nisyonos mikama kivunim. And we stand up, we're standing against, or we're standing opposite so many challenges from all different directions. Sometimes we have difficulties, challenges, hardships that come from internal ones, that come from the inside, internal challenges. For example, sometimes we have no desire. We have no desire to do these things. We have apathy, we have laziness, we have exhaustion. And sometimes the challenges come from outside of ourselves, trying to draw us into things that are meaningless and don't hold any real lasting value for us. All different kinds of things that don't have lasting value, but they look like they might, that they look like easy fixes and easy ways of satisfying whatever it is that's bothering us, or the simcha that we need, or the satisfaction, or the security, or whatever else it is that we need. And that even if a person is lucky, even if a person is successful and is able to remain lofty, high, and elevated, nevertheless, at the end of the day, people still have to engage in worldly things. You have to go to work, you have to eat, you have to drink, you have to go buy clothes, you have to clean the house, you have to do laundry, and so on and so forth. And as a result of that, especially people who find themselves elevated all the time, then they have to be worldly people, and that can be very challenging for them because, again, they have to find meaning and purpose and dvekus in those things, and finding that is difficult, especially from the perspective of spirituality. Dvekus is found in conventionally religious things. People who are taught to find dvekus and connectivity in the Beis Medrash and in davening, in a chalabek, in quintessential classic religious experience, and they lean hard into that, and they do indeed elevate themselves and find a religious experience and find dvekus within those practices and those times and place and in those places. Then at the end of the day, when they have to go home and they have to come down off of that lofty place and be a normal human being, that can be extremely, extremely difficult to do, and they experience powerful nefila. And they don't have a solution or an explanation for where that fits into a life of dvekus. And even when a person is able to learn and daven as they should, still, even within those things, even within those experiences, they can still feel far from closeness to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Ifas alev hatahar. Because sometimes even within those spiritual experiences, the religious practices and observances, nevertheless, not only are you on your game, not always are you with it. Oftentimes challenges arise internally because of midos, right? Midos ros. Challenging traits, character traits, attitudes, experiences, feelings, and so on, such as ego and haughtiness and anger and laziness and apathy and depression, b'chol shar hamidos haros, and all of the other negative mitos that pull us down. And as a result, the war is in front of you, the war is behind you. It's in the obvious challenges of the world, it's in the non-obvious challenges, because even within the religious experiences and the learning and the davening and so on, even there are deficiencies and there are ups and downs, and it's not clear how I'm supposed to experience dvekus in those things. And so people are crying out and they're saying, Mi yirenu tov nasa alenu or panach Hashem. Who will show us good? Who will allow us to experience the or panecha of Hashem? V'nafsham sho'alas eich zochem liras pnei Hashem. And their nefesh, their nefesh, their souls, which is the seat of these spiritual strivings, they're asking, how are we going to be lucky enough? How are we going to achieve this experience of seeing the face of Hashem? Lizkos l'devekos emes b'Hashem Yisbarach, to experience real, true devekos with Hakadosh Baruch Hu. Ve'ech zochen l'netzach es l'natzeach es hamilchama hagadol, and how can we win this great battle? Mitoch yishuv hadas v'simcha, through yishuv hadas and simcha, and to find joy and to be able to stand up with and prevail and persevere with simcha and yishuv hadas in all of the situations and all of the difficulties and all of the challenges that are going to come over us on a regular basis, because that's life. Hine, kol mi sheb'shem Yisrael yechona asher levavo amiti im Hashem Yisbarach, anyone upon whom the name Jew can be applied, whose heart is compelling them, is truly with Hakadosh Baruch Hu, who margish kedvar ma'elu, and feels these things. Anyone who's had these feelings, these senses of despair and difficulty and confusion and not knowing where to turn, because wanting to grow spiritually and not knowing how to do so, and wanting to grow spiritually and not knowing how to process the challenges and the difficulties, or how to succeed in these, or what success even looks like. Anyone who's experienced these things, and they're looking for a tool that they can use to make their avodas Hashem more wholesome, more complete. We wrote this for them. And hopefully through this, their soul will be able to find some rest, some true satisfaction, some true peace and serenity in the joyfulness of this world. And as we go out, and to begin this, we begin by casting a prayer in front of the Master of everything. Anna tizakenu avinu sheyiskavu hadvar mutoelas. May it be your will, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that these words should be received in a positive way. Eitzel banecha ohavecha, that people, your children, your beloved children, should receive the words in this sefer positively and effectively. And hopefully nothing bad should come of it, because once you put words out there, people will read them and interpret them and understand them in different ways, and there's always a risk that something bad can come of it. And hopefully all of this should be in the sense of adding on and continuing forward, to get closer and closer to you, our Father in heaven. And hopefully we'll be able to quickly be able to see a return to Tzion V'Racham and V'Kerev Kol Yisrael amongst everybody else. That's the introduction, brief introduction. So I think, just by way of introduction, that might be a good place to stop just for tonight. Just a brief introductory comment. But on a practical level, we should always bring it back to practicality. I think the avoda ma'asis, the practical avoda, the practical spiritual practice that should come out just from reading this brief introduction to the Sefer, before we even get into a discussion of what Dvekus is and what it looks like and what it feels like, and different kinds of Dvekus and ways of actually achieving it, and different practices for achieving it. It's worth taking a moment to just sit and reflect back on who he's writing the book for. Right. The book is for everybody who's had these kinds of questions. It's for people who feel like they're trying to experience something more than what their religious life is currently offering them, maybe what their typical practices and observances of Torah learning, more Torah learning, another Seder in the base medrash, come to another minyan, do this, do that, check off that box, check off another box. Um, People who are looking for more than that, who need more than that, and people who have ever wondered how to get something more than that. What is this all for? What am I trying to achieve with this? Where does God fit into the picture? Dveikus is a central mitzvah of the Torah. It's the essential point of the entire Torah. Everything is trying to push us towards the experience of Dveikus, of connection. Connection, Dveikus with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, we'll learn, is really at core a matter of being Megala Shechina B'Tachtonim. The experience, a human being's experience of attachment to HaKadosh Baruch Hu is an experience of revealing within that own person's experience of this world internally that Hashem is present where they are and in what they're going through and in what they're experiencing, whatever that happens to be. That awareness, that consciousness, and that attachment is making the Shekhinah manifest and present within that reality. And that's the point of everything. That's the point of everything. That's the tachlis hakol. That's the matara acharona of everything and why creation exists. To create a dir b'tachtonim, to facilitate HaKadosh Baruch Hu having a dir b'tachtonim, and that happens through the experience of Dveikus. Aside from the fact that, of course, the experience of Dveikus is, for those who have ever experienced anything remotely touching on Dveikus, is a transcendent, satisfying, wholesome experience of belonging and place and connectivity and attachment and relatability, etc. And so anybody who's ever wondered for themselves how to achieve such a thing or what that might look like and how to get there, how to find that in all of the things that one goes through in their religious life, in their non-religious life, in the secular aspects of their life, in the mundane, in the holy, and so on and so forth, how to shift from one to the other in a healthy way. All of that is what the Sefer is about. And so as a practical, I guess we could say for purposes of the Chabura, a little bit of homework to take into the week until next time. The thing I think to reflect on is just to sit a little bit and try and see where any given person's, where your own experience of looking for Dveikus or wondering about Dveikus or questioning Dveikus fits in to the picture here. Where does that, what kind of questions about Dveikus have come up for you? What kinds of needs or absences of Dveikus or deficiencies and problems and challenges that Dveikus might offer help for have come up. And to become aware of where the lacking is, where the deficiency is, where the sense of need is. Because at the end of the day, that awareness of where you need Dveikus literally creates the kalim, the space within which the aura of Dveikus can be experienced. If there's no sense that there's anything to be needed, then really there's no place that's not filled with one's own ego that leaves any space for something outside of oneself, which would be HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So that would be a good practice, a good avoda to utilize this introduction for. Before Bezras Hashem next week, we'll dive in to the nitty gritty and we'll start Parak Aleph, Mahus HaDveikus Umalaso, the essence of Dveikus and the value of Dveikus, and we'll describe what it is exactly.